Rabbi Menace Friedman. Hello, thank God it's Tuesday. Thank you so much for this time that you allocate for us. And the question that arises, and it arises periodically, but the world changes, so maybe the answer changes, is how to be, or even should we be, selfless in a very selfish world that we live in? That is the question.
Doesn't sound too practical. How are you going to win if you're being selfless and everybody else is being selfish?
Exactly.
You're going to finish last. So what does selfless mean? That I have no interest, I don't care, let everybody else win, I have no ambitions. That's not selfless. That's just nothing. That's just failure. Selfless means committed to a project beyond self-interest. But if I'm not committed to anything, and I don't care about anything, that's not selfless. That's no self, which is a terrible weakness of character. When you have your passion, and because you have your passion, other things don't matter to you, then you can be selfless. I can afford to have others win an argument because I don't need to win an argument. That's not my passion. So as long as you're not threatening my passion, I can be tolerant, I can be forgiving, I can be patient, I can be flexible, all good things. But that doesn't come from indifference. Indifference is a mild form of depression, which is not a good thing. If that's the case, then only the selfless are going to win. The selfish are going to destroy each other. If everybody's fighting over the same dollar, nobody wins. Because there's only $1, or $1 billion. But if you're all fighting over that same $1 billion, nobody wins. So the only way to win is to be focused on something valuable and be flexible about everything else. That way you can succeed and still have some friends.
Rabbi Friedman, we spoke before about what is the ultimate kindness. And you said that the ultimate kindness is putting somebody else ahead of yourself. To putting others ahead of yourself. And that is so ideal and amazing if this was already the age of Mashiach. But how do we realistically do it in this day and age where we are? How do we do it yet don't get hurt, do the right thing? Where is that fine line, if I'm making myself clear, I hope?
Well, it all begins in the head. You don't just practice kindness. Without direction, kindness can get you into a lot of trouble. So we say in the Eshet Chayil Friday night, Piha pascha b'chachma, she starts her conversation with wisdom, v'seiras chesed al l'sheina, and the language of kindness is on her tongue, in her speech. So it begins with wisdom, which guides the kindness. That's a woman of valor. But just kind? So it begins in the head. Does it make sense to you that your life is not for you? That is the most fundamental question in the universe. Is my life for me? Is my life about me? If my life is about me, then there's no way I'm going to be kind or generous or altruistic or give up anything unless it benefits me. Because life is about me. So if I'm going to live life properly, it has to serve me. But if in your head it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense that life is about me. One of the reasons it doesn't make sense is because I'm so tiny. How can life be about me? Life is so much bigger than me. Beginning with my parents. How can it be about me? They gave birth to me. They gave me life. They fed me breakfast for a couple of years before they threw me out. So it can't be just about me. But there's nobody else in the world. And my existence and their existence never interact, never come in contact. So it doesn't make sense. I'm too small for life to be about me. That's a very rational and convincing argument. More recently, we have an even stronger argument. How can life be about me, including my life? How can my life be for me? I never asked to be born. I don't need to be born. Life has too many negative sides to it. Okay, so life is really difficult, but try to make the best of it. This is a philosophy in life. Life stinks, but maybe you'll have a few good days. Maybe you'll have a few successes. That doesn't make sense. If you live like that, you're living on the edge of a depression. So in the reasoning, in the logic of the head, doesn't make sense that life is for me. That life is about me, life is for me, my life is mine. No, it's not. It's not. I didn't ask for it, I didn't deserve it, I didn't work for it. And sometimes I don't even want it. Not suicidal, just a little turned off. So what makes sense? What makes sense is that something very important is going on, much bigger than me. And I would like to find a way to participate. I think just under the surface, every human being is really thinking that there's something big going on. Can I be part of it? If I don't find what that is, I make something up. The cause of the hour. That's how communism got popular. They needed something. Life was boring, restrictive, didn't make sense. Somebody came along and said, oh, but there's a very important cause. It's global. It's the biggest thing in the world. Whether it made sense or not, people jumped on the wagon. Because better to have some cause than no cause.
Rabbi Friedman, can I take this opportunity, since we're living in the 9 days before the destruction of our temple, second temple, first temple, doesn't matter, all temples. And you're saying everything comes from wisdom. Well, we had all the wisdom in those days. We had open information. We had God's presence in the temple. What happened to us? What was the cause of just what happened to us? Why did we act the way we act to cause total destruction of ourselves?
That's harsh. Did we do something so horrible that we deserved destruction? Maybe. But look at what exactly happened. We were living very comfortably and very meaningfully in our land with our temple. The cause that we're supposed to be part of is bigger than that. The cause is universal, global, cosmic. The cause is not only to do right by ourselves, but to make the whole world right. In fact, the cause is to make God's plan work. That's cosmic. We're affecting even God's desire, God's plan, God's vision, God's will. That's a big plan. And for that, we need to be everywhere in the world, affecting every part of the world. So the temple was good for us, which was like a cradle. We grew up, we matured, we got healthy, and then God said, okay, now take your message on the road. Now that you know, spread it throughout the world. And in order for it to be real, you can't do it from a distance. You can't import wisdom. You have to make it organic to the place. So you have to be part of the place, you have to be part of the culture, you have to live among the people, and there plant the wisdom so that it grows organically. Then it's real. We're grieving the loss of the temple, not because we shouldn't be here and this whole thing is a terrible mistake and a tragedy. We're grieving because the temple did represent the whole world. You know, in Sukkot, every one of the 70 nations came and brought their sacrifice to the God of Israel. So it affected the whole world, and it's going to affect the whole world again when we build the third and permanent one with Mashiach. But we were not thinking global. We were enjoying our local, private successes, spirituals. So the temple is indispensable. We have to live outside of Israel and be available to the whole world? Fine. What do you have to destroy the temple for? What a waste of money. So the temple, we grieve the loss. But it could be that if the temple stood, we would refuse to leave. Or we'd find every excuse to go back. So it's not like we regret being scattered all over the world and we just want to go back home. No, we want to finish the job. Then, if we go back home, we're not ignoring the rest of the world. We've invited the rest of the world. We've involved the rest of the world. And And that's why the big message today, and without too much of an exaggeration, every Jew in the world today is a prophet, a role model in some way. Again, we talked about this a number of times and I can't get over it. The hostages, the young, uneducated, secular, assimilated, pro-Palestinian Jews who went to dance at a festival, not a religious event. And then they became hostages and they became prophets. They are now prophets. They pick up a microphone and they tell the world the truth. They're amazing. Amazing. So every Jew, in a sense, in today's world, is a light to the nations, which is a prophet. If you can teach the nations something that they don't know, then you're a prophet. Especially since it will affect the future. It will bring Mashiach. So the message to the world today is, God is waiting for your service. What are you busy with? What are you so distracted by that you can't respond to God's expectation? God is waiting for you to do something to fulfill his plan, to complete the purpose of creation.
Rabbi Friedman.
In 5 minutes, you can do something for him.
Then it really, everything you just said ties so well into the initial question. I mean, it seems like all throughout history, Jews have made tremendous self-sacrifices. Some of them were forced, some of them were voluntary, but we're constantly self-sacrificing ourselves for a greater cause, a greater good. How can this be applied in our everyday life? I mean, how uncomfortable or self-sacrificing should we be in our everyday life in dealing with everyday situations, the people who are around us? How much self-sacrifice should we be making in order to serve the greater cause and for the greater good? I mean, right now, it's still all about me. I'm sorry to say, bring it back. And we have concepts like toxicity. I don't want to make myself uncomfortable. You know, where do I draw the line in relationships, and in how many good things should I do with my free time or just my time? You know, it's very hard to balance out because there's no heavy hand right now that is saying, be dispersed, do this, and this is your mission. So how do we figure it out in our daily lives?
Well, I have that problem or challenge.
Oh wow!
You're sitting in a Uber, and you finally have quiet minute to yourself. Do you ignore the driver? You have an opportunity to speak to the driver, say something, get him to talk about his purpose in life, and you can really change his life, inspire him, get him thinking. But I want my time off. Going a little beyond the comfort zone for someone else's benefit. That's all. It's hard. But it's not complicated. And it's certainly not undoable. It's just going a little beyond comfort. And the Rebbe was once very, very, I don't know, disappointed, or I don't know what the word is. Somebody was telling the Rebbe that he was traveling and he was sitting with a non-Jewish driver or guide or something for hours because it was a long trip. And the Rebbe says, and during all that time, you never spoke to him about his purpose in life? And it was like unbelieving. How could you? Hours, and you never said a word? I can understand it very, very nice, very easily. I would love a few hours. Well, this rabbi from Minnesota was going to New York for Pesach. Now, the days before Pesach are very busy. As a rabbi, he has to make sure that everybody sells their chametz, that everybody has the right matzah for their seder, that everybody knows what to do, and so on. This is the first year that he was able to leave and spend Pesach with his family in New York. So I drove him to the airport, and he says, just like speaking to himself, he says, I hope the person sitting next to me is Oriental. I said, what? What? He said, if he's not Oriental, I'm going to have to ask him if he's Jewish. If he's Jewish, I'm going to have to sell his chametz. I'm going to have to ask him where he lives so I can get him some matzah. I'm tired. I want to sit next to an Oriental. That's the challenge.
Rabbi Friedman, but we always look up to the ultimate examples. The Rebbe, who did not spend a second of his life not doing something for somebody else. It was absolutely not about him. We go back many years, we speak about Moses, Moshe. Did he do anything for himself? Was any of his time spent any other way except doing something for others? So we're looking to these tremendous examples, tremendous leaders, and then we go back to ourselves. And we know that this is the right way to be. This is the way to be. The question still is it good to be so idealistic in our day and age? Is it realistic? Should we thrive for this? Or can it, I'm sorry, come and bite us where we don't want to be bitten? Because this is not how the world is today.
We don't have to go with the world. We're responsible for the world. So the world doesn't dictate. Whatever is wrong with the world, we have some responsibility to repair it. So of course you have to be realistic. If you overdo it, you'll end up doing nothing. You bite off too much, you can't swallow anything. So it's a constant challenge. Step over the border into the uncomfortable. How often? I doubt that the average person is going to do it too much. It would be nice if he did it at all. So once in a while, step beyond your comfort zone. Doesn't mean give up your life, but add something to your life. A little beyond your comfort zone. But you're right, the examples are stunning. A very practical question. When Moshe passed away, who inherited all his stuff?
Yeshua?
He had no stuff. He owned nothing. When everybody else
Just his mission, I guess, not his stuff.
Yeah. When everybody else was gathering gold and silver and jewelry in Egypt, what was Moshe busy with? Carrying Joseph's coffin. Because Joseph didn't want to be buried in Egypt. So what did he have that people had to divide up among themselves and inherit? There was nothing to inherit. He owned nothing. And the same is true with the Rebbe. There was nothing. Rabbi Krinsky became the executor of his estate, of the Rebbe's estate. The Rebbe's estate was a pair of tefillin. The house was not his, the car was not his, nothing. There was nothing to fight over. So yeah, there was exceptional role models and all the great leaders in between.
Rabbi Friedman, can I ask last question? I know we're pressed for time today. I've been forewarned to finish early today. So the last question, it's still extremely painful. Yes, Jewish people definitely have a mission. We, I think, are becoming clearer about this mission. However, it's still a huge question. Why through the ages, the ways for us to carry out our mission have been so harsh?
I can't argue with that. Way, way too harsh. Even today, there's still way too much pain. We'll have to wait for Mashiach to justify it, but we shouldn't. It's like you don't console a person before the burial. A person loses a family member. There's no consoling before the funeral, before the burial. The Shiva begins after the burial. Because how can you console someone when the loss is so immediate? So while a person is bleeding, you don't tell them it's all for the good. After they recover, after they're settled down, and they're wondering why it happened, you can tell them it was all for the good. But it would be so inappropriate to tell a person who's bleeding, hey, it's good, it's good. That's nasty. So we're still bleeding. We're still bleeding from the past, like we're still grieving the temple. We're still grieving the Holocaust. We're still bleeding from anti-Semitism. To say, oh, it's all good? Not allowed. That's inhumane. Right now we have to feel how horrible and unacceptable the pain is. When the pain is over, and we've had a few hours to adjust to a world without pain, then we can talk about what was all that pain for. But now is not right. Looking forward to a better time? Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm into that.
But justify the pain, not nice.
Rabbi Friedman, amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for this time that you have allocated for us and for the incredible, I don't know, I'm feeling it. I hope everybody else who's been listening to us and will continue to listen to this program also feels the uplift, even in this very negative and hard concept that we have spoke about today. There's a lot of goodness that we definitely took out of it, and that's tremendous gratitude to you that you're always able to find the sparks of light in the darkest places and deliver them to us. And it's absolutely priceless. Thank you so much. And wishing you, your family, an easy fast on the Sunday, on the 9th of Av. Hopefully, there's not going to be a fast. I'm hopeful. And
these days are meant to become the happiest days. That would kind of balance the score, even the score. If it just becomes good, doesn't justify all the pain. It would have to be so good that instead of being days of grief, they become days of eternal joy, holidays forever. So why not this year?
Why not? I'm up for it. I think we all are. Rabbi Friedman, thank you. Thank you for the light, for the knowledge, for the inspiration, for everything you do for us every single day. Thank you so much, and all the best, God willing, till next. Thank God it's Tuesday.